On June 9th, 2024, a 50-year agreement between the United States and Saudi Arabia quietly expired. No dramatic headlines, no emergency press conference from the White House, just silence. And in that silence, one of the most consequential shifts in modern financial history began. The single most powerful financial weapon America has ever had is gone. Not because of a war, not because of a crash, but because the rest of the world quietly decided they didn't need it anymore. That's not a hypothetical, that's what's happening right now. So today, we're breaking it all down. What the petrodollar actually was, why it's dying, and most importantly, what replaces it? Because trust me, America is not going to like this answer. Let's go back to 1974. The United States had just gone through something humiliating. Nixon took the dollar off the gold standard in 1971, inflation was surging, and America's financial credibility was taking a hit. So, Secretary of State Henry Kissinger made a deal. A very clever, very secret deal with Saudi Arabia. The terms were simple but brilliant. Saudi Arabia would price all of its oil exclusively in US dollars. In return, America would provide military protection and weapons to the kingdom. The Saudis would then take those massive dollar profits and recycle them right back into US Treasury bonds, essentially funding American debt. That deal became the backbone of the entire global financial system because if every country in the world needs dollars to buy oil, and oil is the lifeblood of every modern economy, then every country in the world needs to hold dollars forever. That's the petrodollar. And it gave America something no other nation has ever had, the ability to print money and have the rest of the world absorb the consequences. Now here's where it starts to unravel. In 2023, China and Saudi Arabia completed their first oil transaction settled in Chinese yuan. It was historic. For the first time, Saudi Arabia accepted payment for oil in a currency that wasn't the US dollar. Then, in June 2024, the 50-year US-Saudi Economic Cooperation Framework expired, and Riyadh chose not to renew it. Let that sink in. The country that built the petrodollar system is now selling oil in yuan, and the agreement that locked that system in place, it's gone. But it doesn't stop there. France, a G7 ally, an American partner, completed an LNG deal with China in yuan in early 2024. Even America's friends are hedging. Saudi Arabia also joined Project mBridge, a multi-central bank digital currency platform designed specifically to facilitate cross-border payments without going through the US dollar system or SWIFT. The writing isn't just on the wall, it's been spray-painted in neon. So who's driving this? Two words: BRICS expansion. In 2024, the BRICS bloc, originally Brazil, Russia, India, China, and South Africa, admitted 5 new members: Saudi Arabia, the UAE, Egypt, Iran, and Ethiopia. This coalition now represents over 45% of global oil production and more than 30% of world GDP by purchasing power. That is a formidable counter-system to US financial dominance. And at the 2025 BRICS Summit in Johannesburg, member states confirmed they are actively developing a commodity-backed digital settlement instrument, essentially a new currency for trade, potentially tied to a basket of gold, oil, and strategic minerals. Central banks and sovereign wealth funds are already running simulations. Meanwhile, China's digital yuan, the ECNY, is now integrated into 29 bilateral trade corridors across the Middle East, ASEAN, Africa, and Latin America. It's programmable, fast, and it completely bypasses the traditional dollar-based correspondent banking system. Now, let's talk about gold, because this is the signal that almost nobody is paying attention to. In 2023 and 2024 combined, global central banks purchased 2,082 tons of gold. To put that in perspective, the average annual purchase from 2010 to 2021 was just 473 tons. That's more than 4 times the historical average. And the buyers, Russia, China, India, Turkey, Poland, the nations that are systematically reducing their dollar holdings and replacing them with physical gold. Russia, after Western sanctions, now holds gold as half of its entire national reserve. That is a direct message to Washington. We no longer trust your financial system. The dollar's share of global central bank reserves has fallen from 73% in the year 2000 to around 56% as of mid-2025. A slow bleed, yes, but it's been accelerating. And accelerations have a habit of becoming avalanches. So what actually replaces the petrodollar? Here's the honest answer. Not one thing. A fragmented system. We are moving toward a multipolar financial world where no single currency dominates, but several systems run in parallel. The Chinese yuan for trade corridors across Asia, Africa, and the Middle East. Digital currencies and CBDCs for instant settlements outside SWIFT. Gold as a neutral reserve asset that no government can sanction or freeze. And a potential BRICS settlement instrument for commodity trades among the bloc. China doesn't want to replace the dollar. It wants to make the dollar optional. And in a growing number of trade corridors, it already has. For the United States, the consequences are real. When there's less global demand for dollars, America loses its ability to borrow cheaply. Interest payments on US debt rise. Import prices go up. The everyday American pays more for everything. That's the hidden tax of losing reserve currency status. Here's the nuanced truth that most videos won't tell you. The dollar isn't going to collapse overnight. Around 80% of global oil trade still happens in dollars. The euro, the yen, and the yuan are not ready to fully replace it. The dollar still has deep structural advantages. US capital markets are the most liquid on the planet, but the monopoly is cracking. The question is no longer if the petrodollar era ends. The question is how fast, and whether America adapts or gets caught off guard. Because for the first time in 50 years, the world has options, and it's choosing to use them.